Hello and welcome to Who Wore It Better, where I review Raw and Smackdown back-to-back and try and figure out which show won for the week. Before I get into Monday and Tuesday night's festivities, I do briefly want to talk about AEW once again, All Elite Wrestling. They held their press conference in Jacksonville Tuesday afternoon, and it was quite an interesting event. They had, technical issues aside, they had a lot of big things going for them, a lot of big announcements, a lot of surprises, a lot of names that showed up. Guys like MJF and Joey Janela have been announced, SoCal Uncensored, Pac, formerly known as Neville, and of course, last but not least, they announced Chris Jericho signing with AEW, which I think is a huge coup for them. Someone who just had this, again, a huge career resurgence in Jericho. Spent the last year or so in New Japan and redefining himself once again and keeping himself super relevant. As soon as he's done with New Japan, he hitches his wagon to AEW, which is great for him and it's great for the company as well. So big things going on for AEW in this first opening salvo with their press conference. And already WWE, they might be projecting a little bit here because it sounds like they were keeping people in Jacksonville from wearing AEW merchandise at the arena that night, which is pretty interesting. If you want to hear more of my thoughts about AEW's big press conference, R. Felix Finch and I had a brief phone conversation about it after the press conference was over. I've put that up on the Patreon page, patreon.com/wrestlingwithwregret, but there is no paywall behind this file, folks. You can listen to it absolutely free, whether you're a backer or not. Think of it as a little preview of the kind of perks you can get from being a Patreon backer. If you're still on the fence about it, you can listen to this, see what you think, and go from there. And now, on with the reviews. Raw opens up with a big old backstage brawl between Bobby Lashley and Seth Rollins. The whole locker room's there, try and break it up. It spills through gorilla position and onto the stage area. The camera is very shaky during all this and gives me a huge headache, but thank God John Cena is there to break the ice, to break the tension. After all the chaos dies down, he shows up to cut a promo. He announces he's going to be entering the Rumble match. Drew McIntyre interrupts. They exchange some words. They're about to fight, but then Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush reappear on stage. Lio says he wants Raw canceled because of what Seth Rollins did. Coincidentally, on the same day Hulk Hogan's returning. Then Seth comes back out. The fight resumes as normal. Dean Ambrose shows up, and then Finn Balor, he makes his way out there to even the odds. So we have a six-man tag team match play out. What a shock. I will say I did enjoy the chaotic opening of the show. It broke from the traditional formula, made it feel more gritty and kind of hectic. So I kind of like that opening, how it spilled back into it after minutes after it had passed. It comes back out to the stage. That was pretty nice. So we have the six-man tag, John Cena, Seth Rollins, and Finn Balor versus Drew McIntyre, Dean Ambrose, and Bobby Lashley. Why is Dean Ambrose wearing a wallet chain now? No one's going to steal his bus pass. Dean, there's no reason to worry. A lot of commercial breaks in this match, too. This whole thing, when you include the opening segment, goes well over a half hour long. Lots of good stuff in the match. Rollins wins with a stomp on Dean, so he wins for his team. And then as they're celebrating, Triple H shows up on the screen just having a chat with Sasha and Bayley, which very much irks Seth. So he goes to the back to confront Triple H. He says he wants Dean Ambrose for the championship tonight, and Triple H gives it to him in a Falls Count Anywhere match, so we'll see what happens there. We get a 10-bell salute for the late Mean Gene Okerlund, and then Hulk Hogan shows up to pay tribute to him, and hoo boy, Orlando is not happy to see him there on this night. I can't remember the last time I heard Real American play on a show and not hearing the crowd blow up over that. They're booing him, and then of course, but it's just so weird because, after the music dies down and before he talks, we get a Hogan chant. So make up your mind, people. What are you going to do? You're going to boo him or you're going to cheer him? I feel some people just boo people because it's cool. Same thing with the John Cena sucks chant. Same thing with booing Roman Reigns. Oh, it's cool to boo Hulk Hogan. Oh, but we'll chant for him anyway. We don't know what we want. Hogan introduces a really classy, really well done tribute package for Gene Okerlund. It's probably one of the better ones they've done in quite some time, which is saying a lot. Hogan then cuts a promo afterward where he puts over Mean Gene, puts over a bunch of other fallen legends, Warrior, Savage, Piper, Mr. Perfect, Andre the Giant, Moolah, and May even get a shout out as well before finally wrapping it up. Like I said, this was a really well done tribute segment. Say what you will about Hogan, but I think he kept it very classy, very respectful, didn't put himself over at all. He was all about Gene and the legends and stuff. It was very well done. And again, say what you will, I don't think there's anyone else out there, even Ric Flair, who could have done a tribute to Mean Gene as well as Hulk Hogan could do it. A lot of people were mad about the news of Hulk Hogan showing up on Monday for a lot of reasons. And one of them that I heard a lot was, well, nobody ever showed up to, pay tribute to a dead wrestler before this. Oh, they're just trying to sneak Hogan in through this way. Well, hang on. First of all, just because it's never happened before doesn't mean it can't happen. I like the idea of having someone cut a eulogy for someone who's recently passed on a show. I think it's fitting. I think it's nice if somebody volunteers to do it. And if it makes sense, sure, go for it. Hypothetically speaking, if I worked for the company and I died, I would want a good friend of mine to maybe say something nice about me after I passed. It's just a thought. And also, as you saw in the tribute package, I think a lot of Gene's best moments in his career was when he was with other people. He was the interview guy. He was never like the star. He was always kind of the side player. And he worked best with other people. So to me, it makes a lot of sense to have somebody who he's probably most synonymous with in terms of tandems to pay tribute to him. So in this context, Hogan being there worked. I'm not saying let's have him be out there every week, but I think in this case, they can make an exception. We had a lumberjack match with the Raw Tag titles as Ruble defend against the Revival once again. Last time these two fought for the championships, the Revival got screwed because the wrong man was pinned in the decision. So these lumberjacks out here, it was a good match, even though I think the lumberjacks were largely ineffective, especially near the end because Rude was on the outside of the ring on the babyface side, adjusting the small package so Gable was on top. And so then you've got Dash's foot under the ropes, clearly under the ropes, but the referee misses it, and so the Revival they're screwed again. This is eerily reminiscent to me of when Benjables were feuding with the Usos over the Smackdown Tag Championships not too long ago. And hey, what's the common thread? Chad Gable. Interesting. We see the hype videos for the NXT call-ups once again. Do you know what I'd like to see in place of these packages? Maybe some promos, a couple of vignettes here and there. Anything would be better than seeing the same, now tired hype packages for these same 6 people over and over again. It's like 3 weeks now they've been doing these, and they need something new really badly. Elias cuts a promo. He gets cut off by Baron Corbin. They're both going to be in the Rumble match now. They have a match here, a one-on-one. Is it me, or did Elias show a lot more emotion and fire this week in this match? I think he's done that more than any other match I've seen him in recently. Anyway, Elias almost runs into the ref. He stops himself. He eats the end of days, so Corbin wins the match. It was a decent match. We get a face-to-face being advertised all night between Braun Strowman and Brock Lesnar in preparation for their championship match at the Royal Rumble. Braun's in the ring. Paul Heyman and Brock are backstage on the big screen saying, hey, basically, we're not coming out tonight. Braun's opening line is then him going, hey, Beastie Boy. Boo. God, that was a bad opening line. And it gets worse from there. Strowman talks and Brock just kind of laughs at him, and Heyman laughs at him and just talks shit to him. That's not a good way to make Strowman look good. And then Strowman goes, do you ever think your advocate's ass is jealous of all the crap that comes out of his mouth? What? Who wrote that line? Oh my God. So, and what makes it worse than just the dialogue itself is all these pauses between Strowman talking and waiting for a reaction from Brock and Heyman, which often does not come, or you just don't hear it half the time. Somehow, Strowman is able to go to Lesnar to the ring, and so he shows up, he walks a lap around the ring, he laughs, and he walks off, and that's it. Strowman yells some more, and that's the end. Good God, what a bad segment this was. Not sure if that was designed to get people excited for this matchup, because if anything, it made people less excited for this match. God, thank God that's not the go-home. Thank God this was not go-home week, because that would be a terrible thing to end on for this build. Hopefully something better is going to happen before the actual pay-per-view. Jinder Mahal and Alicia Fox take on Apollo Crews and Ember Moon. Not much of this match. I actually missed most of it because I looked away for half a second. Apollo does a dive on the outside, takes out Jinder in the sings. Ember hits Alicia with the Eclipse, and so the faces win. Whee! We get the debut of the new talk show segment, A Moment of Bliss, and Alexa's first guest is the Raw Women's Champion, Ronda Rousey. Ronda says she wants a challenge, and she puts over Sasha Banks in a big way as someone she wants to wrestle. And as she's talking, Nia Jax makes her presence known with a horrific retching sound, and then she says she wants a rematch for the championship. Sasha comes out, and Nia tells her to get in line, and Sasha goes, bitch, what line? Ooh, she had some venom in that one there. Sasha challenges her to a match right then and there. She makes her way to the ring. And the best part about this segment is Nia kind of like shrugging it off. I was like, well, I'm the bitch, not a bitch. She kind of like shrugs it off, kind of a funny way. Boy, this is kind of a waste of a talk show segment, wasn't it? So we get Sasha versus Nia after the break. At one point, Sasha gets caught up fighting Tamina, and Nia grabs her, puts her in a military press, and drops her on this conveniently placed workbox at ringside. Nia has her on her shoulders off the top of the second turnbuckle and drops her face first onto the top ropes, which looks like a brutal move. Like, you look at it and it looks like it was, done as safely as possible. But with Sasha and the way she bumps sometimes, you can never tell if it's like a work or she almost kills herself. Bayley eliminates the Tamina factor on the outside. At one point, Sasha does this like Hurricane Rana DDT move onto Nia on the apron, but the way Nia sells it, I have no idea what they're actually going for, because Nia just kind of like falls in this weird angle, and Sasha sticks the landing on the outside just fine after doing the flip and everything, but it was just a weird looking move. I had to look back at like 20 times to figure out what the hell happened. Banks rolls into the ring with a bank statement, makes Nia submit, so she will go on to face Ronda for the championship at the Rumble. Aside from a couple of ugly moves here and there, I think it was actually a pretty darn good match. Main event time, a Falls Count Anywhere match for the IC Championship as Dean Ambrose defends against Seth Rollins. By the way, very nice promo by Dean earlier in the night for this matchup here. During Dean's entrance, Seth presses X to break it up and jump him from behind. They fight everywhere in this matchup here. They fight in the backstage area. They fight in the crowd. This one really just explored the space that they had to work with. I was pissed they cut to a commercial break in the middle of this matchup here, because like of all the match types in wrestling, I feel like a Falls Count Anywhere match is the worst type of match to go to commercial in the middle of, because it could end somewhere in the back. You just don't know. This is an absolutely great match. It reminds me so much of the feud these two had a few years ago when the Shield first broke up and the roles were reversed, when Seth was the heel and Dean was the babyface. That was great stuff. This is great stuff. I think like this is the match that a lot of people wanted to see them have at TLC and we didn't get. This is them making up for it in a huge way. The match ends. Seth hits the stump, but Lashley shows back up, drags Seth out of the ring, and they beat up Rollins for a bit. So Ambrose ekes out a victory, is able to escape with the championship. After the match, Lashley and Lio Rush beat Seth up some more. Lashley puts Seth through a table. The guy didn't even lose his hat. That's the mark of a true professional, folks. Smackdown opens up with the champ Daniel Bryan in the concession stand area, and then later the merch stand, berating the fans for their consumerism and how, they buy this stuff to fill the empty void. You're killing the environment. It's basically an angrier version of his Down with Capitalism promo from like the first season of NXT, when he's like tossing out programs to everybody. He goes to the crowd to berate the fans some more. R-Truth dives at him from out of nowhere. The match itself was like, okay, Daniel wins, but man, what a really strong opening promo from Daniel Bryan there. As Daniel makes his way back up the ramp, AJ Styles jumps him, so they have a bit of a scuffle before Daniel runs off. But yeah, really strong opening segment. Really cool that like both Raw and SmackDown this week broke from the traditional format of how they open their shows, and they both went with something different. I like that. We get Rey Mysterio and Mustafa Ali versus Samoa Joe and Andrade Cien Almas. We don't just get good lucha things, we get great lucha things from Rey and Almas in this match, including an awesome counter into a Canadian Destroyer by Rey, which of course is not the finish. Almas blocks the 619 attempt and hits him with the Hammerlock DDT to win the match for he and Joe. That was a really good match. After a backstage bit between Shane and Miz where they argue over whether or not they should challenge for the SmackDown tag titles, we get sad Rusev in the ring. He's bummed out that Lana got hurt last week, and he wants to beat up Shinsuke Nakamura, who's in the production truck, and plays some footage of the scuffle from last week where Rusev kicks Shinsuke, which causes him to fall into Lana. But when you look at the replay, it actually makes it even look weaker than I originally thought last week, because the Shinsuke barely touches Lana on the way down. Lana takes all that bump, and so Shinsuke barely lands on her, and then, oh my god, he flattened her dead, and so it makes it look even worse. But anyway, Shinsuke blames Rusev for what happened. Rusev gets up and chases after him, but he gets jumped by Shinsuke. It's a trap, and so that's the whole thing. I don't care much for angles in which the babyface is defending the honor of his wife. It just, throughout history from when I watch it, it just never seems to look good, because at best, it makes the babyface look weak. At worst, it makes him look dumb. And I don't want that to happen to Rusev so soon after they finally pull the trigger on this, Rusev Day thing with the U.S. Championship run. I don't want to see sad, dopey Rusev pining for his wife, who, I must reiterate, is a wrestler in canon and shouldn't be convalescing the next week at home from a bump. We get a non-title match between the Usos and the Bar, where if the Usos win, they get a future title opportunity for those SmackDown tag belts. It's a great match. Jimmy's itching for a tag near the end when suddenly Mandy Rose materializes on stage, wearing a towel, flirting with Jimmy, and in the distraction, Cesaro hits Jay with the neutralizer to win the match for his team. And so after that's over, The Miz shows up, interrupts, and challenges them to a tag title match at the Rumble. Cesaro, or I should say Sheamus, hits Miz with the Brogue Kick, and the Bar accept. And so that's that. Very interesting way they kind of transition from, they managed to cover a lot of bases with this matchup here. They covered the stuff with the Usos trying to get back in the tag team scene. They find an excuse to keep them away from it for a little while longer. They keep utilizing the Mandy Rose thing, and they also bleed into what the Miz and Shane are doing. So very interesting stuff here. So then backstage, Mandy and Sonya are very pleased with what happened out there. Naomi shows up, takes off her shoes, and she starts scrapping with the two. It's after the fight for a while. Jimmy finally shows up and breaks up the fight. And then we go to another backstage bit where The Miz and Shane are once again at odds. Shane's pissed at The Miz for challenging for the tag titles, and The Miz convinces him it's a good idea, and they do a little bit of a fist bump. And so, hey, we're getting Shane and Miz versus the Bar at the Rumble. I'm curious to see how that one's going to play out. Main event time, Becky Lynch versus Charlotte versus Carmella. A bit of a Summerslam rematch here, actually, as the winner takes on Asuka at the Royal Rumble for the SmackDown Women's title. This is a great match. Everyone got time to shine here. One thing I didn't even realize until like halfway through the match was like, oh my God, there's like no heels in this matchup here. Like, Charlotte is the closest to a heel, but, you know, they don't paint her as such at all in commentary or in the storytelling at all. So pretty much three baby faces here, and the person they're fighting to get a hold of, Asuka, is also a baby face. So are the only female heels on SmackDown right now Sonya and Mandy, and they're tied up in the homewrecker angle with Jimmy Uso and Naomi? Anyway, Becky wins with a disarm her on Carmella. Asuka shows up, they have a stare down, that's where the show ends. I'm very conflicted about the finish here because unless the plan is for Becky to beat Asuka at the Rumble and they do a champion versus champion match with Ronda and Mania that they wanted to do at Survivor Series, I don't think Becky should have won here. Moreover, that idea, champion versus champion, shouldn't even be happening at Mania because one woman is going to have to challenge one of the women's champions for the title at WrestleMania, so that can't happen. So unless Becky pulls double duty, loses to Asuka, then enters into the Rumble match and wins, I'm not sure how we're going to get that match with Ronda at Mania. I think Charlotte or Carmella should have won here. You know, that's just my opinion. I don't know how y'all feel about that, but I do think that, I'm just going to kind of like wait and see what they do with the WrestleMania matchup and what combination of women they're going to use. I think the money is in Becky versus Ronda. But we'll see what happens. Again, I'm very conflicted here. Time now for me to decide which show won for the week, Raw or SmackDown. This one was the hardest for me out of the last several weeks. I am going to go with a tie this week. I say both shows won because I think both shows are very strong. I don't think there's a clear-cut winner among them, though, because on Raw, like, the Braun and Brock face-to-face was stupid, and the Moment of Bliss was a waste of time, but those two things alone did not sink the show for me. I think that everything else going on, like the six-man tag and all that chaos before it, the Gene Okerlund tribute, which is very classy and tasteful and emotional. The Tag Team Championship match was good. Sasha versus Nia was good, save for one botch. And I love the Falls Count Anywhere match with Rollins and Seth. That was fantastic stuff. Even in spite of the dirty finish with Bobby Lashley getting involved, I think it was just a great match there. And again, really reminiscent of their early feud from a few years ago. With SmackDown, I think that was a very strong show from like top to bottom. There was the Daniel Bryan promo. In fact, promos, because later in the night had another promo backstage, which was very good as well. The tag team match with Rey and Mustafa versus Joe and Almas, the Usos in the Bar, and the women's triple threat, all great matches. And the one real knock I had on SmackDown was just the continuing saga of emotional, sappy Rusev. And I hope they can steer the ship the right way with that storyline as it goes on. So yeah, both shows very strong. I didn't want to pick a loser for either of them this week. So yeah, it's going to be a tie. Let me know what you thought about Raw and SmackDown this week in the comment section below, and be sure to vote which show you thought was better in the gimmick in the upper right hand corner of your screen. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com, and check out Patreon.com/WrestlingWithRegret for exclusive perks and bonus content. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.